Welcome to the Row One Seat One podcast. Cracking one open here. This is an Ace Mango Craft Cider.
Ooh,
Oh, it's delicious. Good stuff. Ace has good stuff. If you guys are cider people, Ace has really good stuff. And they do these like high gravity ones that you have two or three and you're feeling great. Um, anyways, it's
yeah.
been a fun couple weeks. I'm here with the friend of mine who I've gotten to know a little bit recently, but has a really cool story and frankly wanted to go to for some advice after an experience I had over the last week. So we'll go into that. But I'm here with Aaron Rose. Aaron, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You are a Kentucky guy through and through.
Yes.
I'm a Gator. I hate it for you.
Uh, hey, everybody has their faults. I don't know which one's which.
um, but you're Kentucky born and bred, right?
Right. Yes,
Fantastic,
sir.
fantastic. So
Um,
you go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, grew up about 15 minutes outside of Lexington.
Who? I'll ask you first. Who's the greatest Kentucky basketball player you ever saw?
Ooh,
It's like choosing your favorite child. I know, but
one of my favorite players for me had to be Tayshaun Prince.
okay.
I was one of my favorite basketball memories for UK was Tayshaun hitting all those threes against North Carolina. And that last one, like he hit five in a row, or I think it was four or five in a row. And on that last one, he just shot it from like just right over center court because he was like, why not? And he drained it. I've never heard that arena get so loud in my life. And it
You've heard that arena get loud.
admittedly, it takes a lot for that crowd to get loud sometimes.
Interesting, interesting. So Kentucky born and bred.
Yep.
We'll kind of start. Because I grew up in the Northeast and you grew up in Kentucky. What was your exposure to wrestling as a kid? And what groups were you getting that some of the other places might not necessarily be getting?
Um, well, being Kentucky born and bred, we of course had our access to WCW and WWF, but the big thing was Memphis wrestling for us. We had access to the Louisville stations, and of course Louisville would air the Memphis wrestling at the time. It was USWA for me, so that
And Louisville
was
was Tuesday nights, right?
yeah. They would have
Yeah.
Tuesday nights at the Garden, and then
hmm
on Saturday mornings they would show the studio TV.
hmm
So, yeah, Tuesday night at the Gardens, and actually one of my buddies uh, now he was a substitute ring announcer for USWA. I just learned this. I guess it was a few months ago, because this is a gentleman that I recently got acquainted with over the last couple of years. So, and he actually wrestled up here in Kentucky for quite a while. So, under the name of Danny Steamboat.
Killer. I love it.
Yes.
Who are your Memphis heroes, by the way? Because everyone has their own.
Oh yeah. I was all of course I was always a Lawler fan. The Moondogs. I love watching Moondogs because it was just mass chaos whenever they came to the ring. Um, I for me, I kind of wish I was watching Memphis a little bit earlier, but obviously I wasn't alive yet.
Yeah.
But during the
We both
CWA
we're about the
days,
same age. We both missed the wave a little bit, but
yeah.
obviously going back and watching it, you don't realize how hot it was.
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
they're
I,
drawing bigger
and
numbers than like the Super Bowl on regular Saturday mornings.
right, and
Mhm.
like in CWA days, like Leduc for me, like Joe Leduc, I would love to actually seen him wrestle. And I know a lot of people who were alive during that time who got to see him wrestle live, and they said he's a very scary individual watching
I'm
him live.
sure.
But you go back and watch some of those promos, the Blood Oath promo, that's like wow. So for me though, I mean, I was always a Lawler fan, and
Mhm.
I actually had the opportunity back in 2022 on my return to wrestling, and I'll go into that later. Um, I was actually able to ring announce a match with him and Dangerous Doug Gilbert, so that
Oh, very
was
cool.
that was awesome, and of course Doug and Tommy Gilbert. I love watching those guys too.
I saw Lawler and Gilbert in Cleveland, Tennessee in 2017 or 2018 or something like that. And the thing I remember sadly the most about that show is that Brian Christopher was there, and he
Hmm.
was, I mean, obviously very tragic death. He was, what I do remember though is he was very messed up on something, and was
Mm.
like uncomfortably hitting on the ring announcer girl.
Oh no.
It was bad. It was real bad. But I did get to meet the king. That was
Uh,
cool. He commented on my Celtics jacket. He's obviously a
nice.
Cavs guy.
Yeah.
But he yeah, I did get to see the king. And then I saw Doug Gilbert work Wombat. Remember when GCW did those shows?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, those were in Tullahoma, Tennessee, baby, and
Oh
those were
wow. Okay. Okay.
unbelievable. And those are the Gypsy Joe Arena in Tullahoma, and
Wow.
you got to drive 40 minutes north and 50 years behind to get to Tullahoma. So it's an interesting place.
Yeah, I'd say
Um,
so.
it's incredible. Tullahoma, God bless it. God bless it. So you grew up on wrestling, always had wrestling as part of your life.
Mhm.
You're a ring announcer. How
Right.
does that start? How does that story begin?
Well, first of all, it's got to go back to my love of wrestling.
Hmm.
My grandfather and my father, they're the ones that introduced it to me. I got my first chance to kind of go watch WWF at Rep Arena in '91, and at the time, Howard Finkel was the ring announcer for those shows, and that booming voice, just
Hmm.
brought so much to it. And as I got older, you know, being an announcer wasn't really on my list of things that I thought I would really want to do in life.
Hmm.
And obviously right now it's, ring announcing and wrestling isn't paying the bills, but man, I love being a part of it.
Hmm.
And that's why I'm doing this, the passion. But am I working my way up? Heck yes. And then do I want to keep getting to more places? Heck yes.
Hmm.
I'm not going to consider it a success if I'm not going to consider it. Hold on, I'm cutting off my headphones here. I won't consider it a success if I don't get more opportunities.
Sure, sure. Well,
Um,
that's the hunger. That's what
right.
that's how you want to be wired. So yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm actively, talking to promoters and being an announcer is hard. It is.
Hmm.
Um,
Well,
you
we're
know,
gonna talk about that. Yeah.
yeah.
But did you ever want to wrestle, or were you just said, I want to be involved, but tangentially somehow?
Um, yeah, again, it really wasn't a thing where I even if I wanted to know that I wanted to be a part of wrestling. And I knew during high school that I wanted to do something with my voice,
Hmm.
because I got some great opportunities. And when I got that opportunity, it was like, oh, holy crap. I really wanted to be involved with sports, because I
Sure.
started working with the Lexington Legends baseball team when I was 16 years old. And, that was my very first job. Such a freaking cool job just to be an
It's an
usher to
amazing
watch
job. Yeah.
baseball when you're 16. Hello. Um, but I got some great opportunities through that. And my senior year of high school, I was working for a hockey team here called the Lexington Men of War. They were our second team that we had after the Kentucky Thoroughblades, and they played in a league down called the ECHL. Well, there was
Thoroughblades is
one
such a cool
one
name,
day,
by the way.
huh?
Thoroughblades is an amazing name.
Oh yes, one of the
That's so
best.
good.
One of the
That's so
best. As
good.
a matter of fact, you can't see it, but on my wall to the left of me, I have a jersey, a Kentucky Thoroughblades jersey that is signed by the 1999-2000 team, and that team also included Zdeno Chara, who
Famous
is
Bruin.
famous
Hmm.
Bruin, Mika Kiprasov, who was a
Hmm.
great goalie. He
Was.
played for San Jose,
Hmm.
and I believe he went up to Calgary after
Sounds
San
about right.
Jose.
Yeah.
So couple great names there. It's my prized possession. My wife got it framed for me one year for Christmas, and it's so cool. So yes, the Thoroughblades were awesome. But when I was working for the Men of War, I go into work one day, and I was a part of the group called the Ice Patrol. We were the goofballs that would shoot T-shirts into the crowd, have a good time. They gave us knee pads and things and stabilizers where we could run on the ice jump down and slide all the way across.
Oh, that's very cool.
It was awesome. So there was one day I walk in for a Sunday game, and actually, as a matter of fact, hang on, is there? I think. Hold on. I actually have a picture here. Oh no, maybe I don't. There we go.
So
There is a picture there of me shooting t-shirts.
very cool.
I was a senior in high school, and that was on the rep arena floor. So you can see like the cleats we had on there, and then we had knee pads on, and that would help us to go all the way across the
So
ice. So,
contrastingly, my first job, actually, I was finishing college, but the job opened up, so I finished college back home. Was with the Bruins, the Boston Bruins,
mm,
and I ended up they had a job in group sales available. I
okay.
thought it'd be the coolest thing in the world to work for the Bruins in sales. I get to go to every hockey game. This would be great. Live, work at the Garden, take the train into work, the whole thing. Yeah, little did I know, there were two catches. One, I didn't get to watch any of the games because I had to stand at the group sales table the whole time.
Oh,
And two, I technically worked for the arena, so some of my job was the Bruins, but most of my job was trying to drum up business for like Disney on Ice and like the
no.
Globetrotters and all that sort of stuff. Just like, oh man, I worked there for a year and they paid terrible, by the way, but it was cool to
Oh
be
yeah,
part of it. It was
yeah.
very cool to be part of it. You get to say you work for an NHL team, and as you probably know, the nicest people in the whole wide world are hockey players.
Yes,
They're
100%.
salt of the earth. They, you hear about all these bad athlete stories. Every hockey player I ever met was the nicest person you could possibly meet.
Yeah, 100%. I can agree with that. Give me 30 minutes to hang out with a hockey player and have a beer, all day long,
Yeah,
because
real
it's
people who
awesome.
just happen to go 90 miles an hour on skates.
Right, right. You just don't want to tick them off on the ice.
Exactly.
Um,
But so you're working for the hockey team. And we were talking a little bit earlier. How does that parlay itself into wrestling?
right. So when I was working for that hockey team, there was one day some our in crowd PA announcer, the person who would go around doing all the promotions and stuff, walked in a little inebriated on a Sunday. And not just inebriated, it was a question of how the crap did she get there. It was that bad.
Wow.
So the GM comes to me and says, "Hey, we're having to let this person go. So would you be interested in taking this position and giving it a shot?" I said, "Well, that's kind of scary. 5,000 people here, but okay." So so as a senior in high school, you have no shame as a senior. You just get out there and do your
Yeah.
thing. So my first public speaking experience was in front of 5,000 people at Rep Arena
Wow.
for a hockey game. So at that point, I'm just like, well, crap. I could. There goes my nerves. I don't have nerves anymore. Let's go. So so then that parlayed into becoming a PA announcer for my high school baseball team. And then when I got into college, I actually got into my first round of play by play. And I became the PA or the play by play announcer for the University of Kentucky hockey team.
Very
For
cool.
those of you who don't know, yes, we do have college hockey in Kentucky. Uh,
Is it
it's
club
actually,
level? Because at UF it's
it,
club level, but they're very
yes,
good. Yeah.
yes, it's club
Hmm.
level. Now, I know I forgot what league UF is in, but they were once in the ACHA.
Hmm.
They're in a different league now, but Kentucky was for a long time was the third largest sport on campus. It was football, basketball, hockey, and then baseball gained popularity, and
Hmm.
then UK uh, dropped down on sorry, baseball and volleyball got really popular,
Yeah.
and they dropped down, but it's still kind of the place to be.
Sure.
We would pack 1,000 people into a 700-seat rink, and that's how wild it was. And all of our games started at midnight. Um, yeah, it was nuts. But I was young then. It was so easy to do, but not so much anymore.
Yeah.
Um, but
If I hit, past 10 o'clock, it's a big accomplishment for me.
right,
Yeah. Yeah.
right. We might be heading that way. Who knows?
I know.
Uh, but I loved doing that, and then that parlayed into radio because a guy that I knew that helped do the broadcast for University of Kentucky hockey on the school radio station, he started working for a bigger radio clump, and he got me in as a producer. Then I eventually became a traffic reporter, and it was at that point that I got to know a wrestler locally by the name of Bobby Blade. And Bobby Blade was, I saw him at the Legend Games when I was doing a mascotting thing out there. I was a mascot, and they called me Tiny. That name has stuck with me ever since.
Love that.
Ever since. Um, if you around here, if you come to a show and you hear somebody yell Tiny, it's me. So, and I am not tiny, you know. Uh, I'm working to get there, but I'm not there.
We're on a journey here. We're both on a journey. Yeah, I'm
Right.
also not tiny. We're working on it.
Yeah, that's right. It is a journey, and it
Mhm,
takes a lot of work, but it's a good accomplishment.
mhm.
Um, so he got me involved with a group called Kentucky Championship Wrestling, and he also got me involved with a group called the Mountain Wrestling Association, which at the time was one of the largest promotions in not largest, but the longest running promotion in Kentucky. It was, if you're a wrestling fan, you knew of Georgetown, Kentucky every Sunday night at the convention center. It was MWA. And then at the time when I got into it, they had gone from MWA in Georgetown to a place in Mount Sterling, uh, and it was a smaller venue compared to what they were at. And then we were actually doing shows when I started with a school called Fanny Bush Elementary here in Winchester, where I live, and we did a lot of partnerships with them because it was kind of a lower end school when it came
Mhm.
to the demographic.
We do that
So
here with
we,
STI. Same idea. You help
yeah,
raise money for the school. The proceeds go.
absolutely.
Yep. Mhm. And it's
Hmm.
a great if you're thinking of running a wrestling promotion, partnering with a school. You're doing good. You get to run a show. I mean, it's um, there's a lot of ins and outs with working at a school, as you know, and as
Right.
I've learned talking to my people. But
Gotta
it
keep it
can be
clean.
incredibly rewarding. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
We had to keep it clean, but I tell you this, there were so many rewarding events. The very first show I worked was a memorial night for a young man who had passed away in a car wreck. I mean, he was 7, 8 years old, maybe,
Oh,
and we were actually able to raise enough money to purchase a tombstone
wow.
and help out with other funeral expenses.
Yeah.
And it was, talk about rewarding. That was
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
was one of them. And then we also, like, every year we would send a group of, they had a little dance team, and we would send a dance team to camp every year. um, every year we were able to buy Christmas for a multitude of
It's
families.
very cool.
And that was some of the best stuff we could do. And that was very rewarding. And I learned a lot with the MWA. I learned how to do websites. I learned the ins and outs of social media. I did posters. I learned Photoshop. Um, uh, I was a ring announcer. I did sound. I did commentary. Like, I was the go to guy.
So here's
Um,
my question, just kind of basing off that, because a lot of people I talk to, I've worked in media and you worked in media, and everyone asks me, how do I get involved in media? How do I get involved in media? And you've had all these cool jobs, and then work at a wrestling, NWA, and you were able to take on all these cool jobs as well. What's your word of advice for someone who wants to start out, not necessarily in the ring, but outside the ring?
Biggest thing is, I, I can say this for people who want to do like graphic design and stuff. Start making posters of like your own fan ideas, and show your talent to potential promoters.
I love that.
There was one guy that, for a company I worked for, a couple of years ago, there was a young man who just wanted to do posters and or wanted to do graphics, and he would make his own match graphics, and we'd share them. We put him up there because he was very good at what he did. And and then there was another guy who, I can't tell you what app he used, but it was like he was able to design full posters on his I disappeared.
No,
Am
you're
I
good.
back? Okay.
You're good.
Um, he designed full posters on his iPad, and it wasn't with like the fancy program. It was like one of the photo, not Photoshop. It was like one of the Photo Express things, and he designed
Sure.
full posters on them. And it's really just trying your hand at it and building up your portfolio that you can
Hmm.
take to promoters and say, hey, this is what I can do for you. And when you first start, you're gonna want to kind of take the lower paying end of it, so that way you can
Yeah.
your build up your portfolio. But the more you do, the more people will see, that way you can do. Now, when it comes to like doing videography and stuff like that, I want to say really the best thing to do is just show up, talk to the
As I say, you
promoter.
seem to be one who like you show up to do A, but you're willing to do B, C, and D,
Yeah,
and then you just kind
absolutely.
of luck into those sort, and then you learn those things as you go, and like
Yeah,
so, for people that I've been around wrestling for a while, and you have too. It seems like the people who have that volunteering spirit, are the ones who end up getting roles.
right. Yeah, I mean, and it's not to say that that there's any right way of doing it,
Hmm.
but it's what I've seen, and it's how I've been able to help others get into the business. As I've been able to see what they can do. I'll send their stuff to promoters and say, hey, this guy can do XYZ. What do you think about giving him a shot? Well, what's his pay rate? I don't know. That's something you all need to talk
Yeah,
about.
you'll figure that out.
But
Yeah.
that's not me. But if it's a guy that's first starting out, it's a good opportunity
Hmm.
to really just get your feet wet, and a lot of people will take that. But the thing is I believe that everybody involved in the business needs to be rewarded for the work that they put in.
Great.
And it's not a matter of paying dues and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, it's still a thing to pay dues, but you want to make sure that in those paying dues you're still rewarded for your work.
Yeah, the
And
time effort equation makes sense.
yes,
Yeah. Hmm.
yes.
So I'm going to drive the car here for a second
Yeah,
because
go
one of the
for it.
reasons why I want to have you on was because I had an experience last week, um, which I shared a little bit. If you follow me on social media, you probably got a kick out of it, but I'll tell the story here. Um, so I went to the Retinal Wrestling Show down in Birmingham, Alabama.
Hmm.
Um, and it's a small promotion. They ran at a bar. They had a good little crowd that night, but it wasn't like I was debuting on WrestleMania, or anything like
Right,
that. And I
right.
had no idea whatsoever. I just went to go see my friends, as most
Yeah.
of my wrestling motivation is to go see my friends. It's a social thing for me. So show up early because I was working down there that day, and go to see some people. And the promoter goes, man, and this is how he sounds too. He goes, man, our ring announcer and showed up, and you seem to know everybody. How about doing ring announcing? It was like an hour before the show, and it was one of those things where I didn't have the time to think about it to say no because it was so close to the show
Hmm.
and overthink it and psych myself out. And I'm kind of in this like, I'm gonna, check things off my bucket list this year. So I did not walk in there with any intention whatsoever of contributing to the show. But what came out of my mouth was sure. And then I had to deal with the consequences of my decision. So um I've been to 600 plus shows, a conservative estimate over the last 10 years
Oh
or in
wow.
my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is my thing. Um, but I had never crossed the barrier.
Yeah.
Um, I had never, like, I've helped set up and all that sort of stuff. But while the show is going on, I'm name my show is row one, seat one. For a very distinct reason. That's where
Right.
when the show starts, I'm in my seat. I'm a
Yep.
fan. I'm a fan first, fan always. The whole thing. But I didn't think about saying no. I just what came out of my mouth was yes. So I'm like, oh shit, I got to prepare for this. So um, I got everybody's nickname. It helped too that I did know everyone there.
Yeah. Oh
So
yeah. Yeah.
that's I mean, if you're familiar with the talent, that from what I understand is three-quarters of the equation basically, because it's
Oh
just
yeah.
like you don't have to go learn names and stuff like that. Now,
It's that, or you having the ability to be as social as crap. If you can be
mhm,
really social, it's no big deal at all.
I will tell you these are some of the things that had to come out of my mouth during that show on a live microphone. The jackal and the bluegrass.
Yes, Jackie
One
Fad.
half of the hard targets, they don't get hard, they stay hard. The scourge of Odin.
Uh-huh.
Big Daddy Thigh Meat. One wrestler was built from the Isle of Hatteras, 888 pounds, the eighth wonder of the world. And then if you know Noah Vale, I had to read all of this for Noah Vale. Quote, the evil spirit of lesbianism, the punk rock prima donna, mommy if you want it, daddy if you need it, the erotic nightmare, and part of the tag team hate crime. And I
Uh-huh.
had to say these things on a microphone in front of people.
Right.
So I'm like kind of referencing my phone a little bit when I'm doing some of the funnier bits or whatever. The only way I could describe, and I don't know if you still get these feelings because you've done a million of these, but my brain was somehow screaming and yet I was smiling and all my nerves were simultaneously shot, yet I was having the best
Hmm.
time ever. And I was scared shitless yet enjoying myself. And um my primary observation was getting in a wrestling ring is hard.
Hmm.
I look like a beach manatee probably getting in the ring because they didn't have steps at this thing. So I'm like,
Oh
how do I
yeah, yeah.
approach this? So I'm literally just like stop, drop, and roll like I'm on fire. It was terrible. But the easiest part for me, and I don't know if you can relate to this, the parts with a microphone in my hand weren't hard.
No.
It was the overthinking, how do I get in? How do I screw up? Blah, 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 blah. Like, I mean, like all of the external, it felt natural once I was saying words into a microphone. But like, for example, like, the thing I was worried about, Kenzie Page, the NWA
Yeah.
Women's Champion. She
Yeah.
was on the show,
Okay.
and she's a serious wrestler, like capital S serious wrestler.
Oh yeah.
So I'm scurrying out of the ring so this serious wrestling match can take place. The match before had those firework poppers, like little
Uh-huh.
snap things.
Uh-huh.
So I'm trying to avoid all attention whatsoever to draw attention to the fact that the NWA Women's Champion is literally about to lock up. Hop out of the ring and step on a fucking firework popper. And everyone looks at me and I'm like, shit. And Kenzie got a kick out of it. Everyone got a kick out of it, or whatever. But like everyone
Oh
thought I
yeah.
did a pretty good job. I was, I can talk. That's fine. It was not a problem. And like I said, the problem was not with mic in my hand. The problem was the mental hurdle
Yeah.
um, of all of the external stuff. Where just like you're overthinking it. And I might do it again. I'm not sure. If someone's in a pinch, I hot dog handshake, whatever. Um, but um, but I had such a newfound respect. I mean, not that I didn't respect you guys anyways, but I have such a newfound respect for the people who participate in a show because we only had probably 75 people at this thing. It wasn't like I was playing at 80,000 people at the Silverdome, but it was the intimidation factor when
Oh yeah.
you are performing in front of a crowd and like and I was just talking to interject memorizing a match and physical aspects and stuff like that and don't screw up this like I would if I was a wrestler I would psych myself out immensely.
Oh yeah. Same.
um
That's why I
and
ring announce.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, even still, I damn near psych myself out as a ring announcer. They just
Right.
like if take it from someone who had their first experience of something like this. Yeah, the nerves are what gets you. It's um that was the thing, and the easy part was the should have been the hard part.
Right.
Do you still have those nerves? Years in, or do you? I mean, like, um,
Nowadays, no, not so much. Now,
mhm,
if I'm going to ring announce for a new company, yeah, the nerves are there because w- not necessarily that they're a new company, but a new to me company. So, let's say I get an opportunity to go up somewhere and I don't know how they necessarily do things. And, for me, I'm asking a lot of questions and things like that. And that's when the nerves kind of sit in a little bit. That being said, though, once people kind of see my rhythm and, once, I figure out how they're working, it just becomes another day at the office. Um, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Another
Hmm.
day at the office for me means, you know, let's get out there, let's get that crowd pumped up, and we're going to have ourselves a hell of a time.
Love it. Yeah.
That's me. That's what I want to do. And for me, I feel like as a ring announcer, I have a very old school mentality with this. As a ring announcer, you are the first person a a fan sees in the ring. So when you're that first person that fan sees, you want to look the part. I'm very old school in how I look. If I'm not wearing my vest and tie and button down shirt, I'm wearing at least a button down shirt and a nice pair of pants or something like that.
Scott Hensley would agree with you very much. We've had this discussion often. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
and it's you want to look the part of a ring announcer, and you want to look the part of somebody representing the company that you're working for. And that's my old school mentality. And I feel like when you get in there and they see somebody dressed and ready to go, and they got that mic in their hands, and ladies and gentlemen, it, it, it's great, and it's one of my favorite things. And
Well, you're setting the temperature of the room.
oh yeah, and
Mm.
that's the thing that I've seen some shows where the ring announcer is, all right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready for tonight's action. Are you ready? Yeah, no, it's let's bring the energy up.
Hmm.
That you're at a wrestling show. Now, of course, that being said, there are some times where you kind of need to start the show on a lower level. Say, a wrestler has passed or there's
Hmm.
something very serious going on. Yes, you got to change your tone, but you got to know what you're walking into too.
Yeah.
So, so for me, going to new places, yes, the nerves still act up, and it's not a it's not a feeling that I ever want to not have, because the thing is if you go into a feeling or go into a venue and a new place to work and you're not getting the butterflies and you're just like, here we go again, your time's done.
Sure.
It's you're the excitement is leaving you. And every single show I work, I don't care if I'm ring announcing this in front of 25 people or 2,500 people. I'm excited to be there.
Yeah.
You know,
I didn't stop smiling for 6 hours,
oh
and
yeah, yeah,
it was I didn't know I was doing. I just like I had. They're like, you have the biggest grin on your face. I'm like, I do.
right.
This is so exciting.
It's a great experience. Especially the very first time you do it. There's been a bunch of great experiences, and for a very long time, I'd worked for one of my favorite experiences was working for Pro Wrestling Freedom for the very first time. That was run by John Bullard and Jimmy Felcher, and
I love
our
Jimmy. I think I love Jimmy. He's a great.
Jimmy and I,
He's a hoot. He's a hoot.
we ride together up to XCF Shea Mercer's promotion. We ride up the arena in Jeffersonville. We were always meeting up and riding together because he's living about 30 minutes from me, so we kind of, or 45 minutes, and we just meet in the middle. And
Tell him Ben said the Bengals suck, and yeah, that's
I will do that, and
fine.
I will record his reaction when I say that, and I will have him cut a promo on you.
Ah,
So,
ah, love it, love it.
um,
So yeah, so I mean, yeah, you're able to work all these promotions, and it never gets old. I'm glad to hear that.
yeah,
You've
it
done this since
doesn't.
what? You said '07.
Yeah, I started in '07, and um, I ended up taking a break out of wrestling for a few years. It was a matter of me just trying to, be a little more, I guess, be a little more financially secure, and yeah, I wanted to focus on the family, and so I decided to step away for a little bit, and
Being financially secure and focusing on your family sounds very non-wrestling, by the way.
it is very non wrestling. But the thing was, I'm also a very technologically sound individual, and I went to work for Best Buy as and like I was one of the mobile experts, so I
Mhm.
focused on one carrier. uh every year my numbers were way up there. I got great bonuses, stuff like that. I loved it. And then that parlayed into a job with Samsung.
Cool.
And
Oh, awesome.
um Samsung, I only lasted a year, and this is
Really?
why. Because I started in 2019 with Samsung, and I was the representative inside the Best Buy stores that would talk to people about all the Samsung phones and
Hmm.
stuff like that. And my numbers were some of the best in the area. And I got invited out to Las Vegas to when they introduced the Galaxy S20 series
Hmm.
in 2020. You see where I'm going?
Hmm.
Um, I got to go out to Vegas and learn all about the phones, and I impressed a lot of people. And I impressed some of the higher ups, and they had a job waiting on me to move up in the company. And I was going to become a traveling manager. And if that happened, I probably wouldn't be here today doing this. But COVID happened right after that. That was January 2020. I went up there,
Oh,
got to go to
right up against it.
Vegas.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
got to go to Vegas, learned all about the phones. February, we launched the phones, and we were having great sales. And then
And then March
March,
happened.
and
Yeah.
we were sent home. When we were sent home, um, they said, "All right, well, we'll work from home for a little bit, and then here in a couple weeks, we'll reevaluate." After that couple weeks, we got furloughed, and then um, so I was able to get unemployment at that point. And it's at that point I started to stream on Twitch a lot. Actually, I played a game called WWE Supercard, gained a following. It was kind of cool. Um, and In 2021, I had found another job, and I was working retail again. And it turned out that my daughter ended up getting sick, and we took her to get checked out. And it wasn't COVID or anything like that, so that was good. She just had a cold. And I ended up getting a cold too. But when I took her there, I found out that they had a spot open for a vaccine. I was like, well, you know what? Let's go ahead and do it because my wife had just done it. My kiddo had gotten hers. I needed to go ahead and do it. And again, I'm not going to be political here about any of this. It is what it is. We didn't know what it was like at the time.
Yeah, it affected everyone entirely
It
differently. It
did.
was, yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
when you take your COVID shot, just like a flu shot, it drags you down. And the problem was that it dragged me down a little bit more because I had been exposed to this cold that my daughter had, which we so it started to kind of drag me down a little bit. I got a little bit better, and then one day in May, I was not feeling well at all, and I was having problems breathing and stuff like that. I went out and uh, had found out I had pneumonia, and in turn, um, they gave me a steroid and an antibiotic few days later, was doing a whole lot worse. I was delirious,
Oof.
and um, I was just like, this isn't good. And so my wife took me to the hospital, and come to find out, I was an undiagnosed diabetic. My sugar was like 400 or 500.
As a diabetic, let me give that some perspective. My endocrinologist gets mad at me if I average above a 150. So you're like four times what the normal person hovers around 100. Who's
Right,
a non-diabetic. So you're 4 or 5 times
right.
where you're supposed to be blood sugar wise. That's scary hours. That I'm very glad you're here, but people have, with sugars that high, been in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, yeah. And, they put me on oxygen and stuff like that. And, they're like, well, we got to get your sugar under control first and foremost. And then, we got to work on your breathing. And, my O2 levels were low 90s, high 80s, which, when
Terrifying.
they say 88, you got to go to the emergency room, period. And, so apparently the first night I was in the hospital, I was fighting with my nurse. Like I was being very just standoffish and stuff. I had no idea.
Yeah, so you say apparently, like you don't have
Yeah,
a memory of this. Yeah.
I had no idea this
Bad.
happened. And then on Sunday, they wanted to try a BiPAP mask on me. I panicked. And then at that point, that's when all my numbers just went, nope. My body said, all right, I'm done breathing.
Oh,
And they put me on a ventilator, and I was in a medically induced coma for a week. The first couple nights were very touch and go. There was one of my nurses who I saw when I moved into a regular room, who saw me, and she, after that point, by the way, I had to shave my beard completely off. My wife came in and like shaved my beard off for me because they had chopped it up because of
mm,
putting stuff everywhere. And she looked at me and she looked at the name. She put two and two together, and she said, "Oh, honey, I didn't know if you were going to make it." Those were her words to me. She said, "I didn't know if you're going to make it. I was worried." She
wow.
said, she said, "You got a second chance on life." And boy, did I ever. Um, I spent some time in the ICU. I spent time in a regular hospital room, and then I had to spend time in physical therapy, learning how to walk again. Because when you're on a ventilator, your body's essential organs are the only thing working. I couldn't even lift up a cup to take a drink of water. Couldn't do it.
Wow.
So I was learning how to work on getting my strength back. And it was a very long process. And it was that was part of the reason for me to come back, because I didn't want to miss out on the stuff that I loved anymore. But more importantly, and I know we talked a little bit before the show,
Mhm.
more importantly, I got back into it because my dad, in July of that year, was not doing well. And we had a conversation. He said, "Aaron," he said, "do you miss it?" I said, "Miss what?" "Do you miss wrestling?" "Yeah, I do. I do." He said, "I want you to make a promise to me." I said, "Okay." He said, "If you ever get the opportunity to do it again, go out there and make it count. Do it, because you're good at what you did and you loved what you did." And he said, "But make sure it's the right time. Don't just do it because you can. It's got to make sense." I said, "I understand that," because he was a very financial guy. He wanted to
Mhm.
make sure that I wasn't doing anything stupid. And we had that conversation on July 6th, and on July 7th, he passed away.
Wow.
Very young. He was diabetic too. His kidneys had shut down. He did six years of dialysis.
Whoa.
Ben, let me tell you, man,
Oh, sounds like
most
hell.
people, most people are done after two.
Hmm.
My dad was a freaking superhero,
The
and I
tough
will
guy. Yeah.
forever hold that in my heart that he was a superhero because the common man couldn't do 6 years of dialysis, but he did, and he hung on for his family as long as he could. I purely believe that he hung on to his life for as long as he did to make sure I was going to be okay.
Love that.
Because when he was in the when he saw me at the hospital, and sorry, I'm getting teary here.
Hmm.
My my mom told me, she said when I woke up, she was there one day. She said, Aaron, he was in tears. He thought that was it, and and you know my mom was in that position of like, what if I lose my son and my husband all in one year? You know, so it was later that year, after he had passed, um, I had another job opportunity come up. And all the while, I'm walking around with a cane, I'm walking with a walker at times because, I'm not back at full strength. But I had an opportunity to work with a company based out of Georgetown where we were fully remote. And I got to learn, how to import metals from Japan. and
It's a skill.
yeah, there's a lot of paperwork involved,
Hmm.
but I had that opportunity come up, and it was a Monday through Friday position. So I'm just like, well, this is cool. I get to be a traditional Monday through Friday guy for the first time ever. And I was attending an OVW show that was at the brewery that was just around the place I worked. And I was like, I'm going to work from the office one day because I needed to train out there. So we trained on Friday because I asked for him to, so I could go to the WW show. And I went over there, and one of the promoters I'd worked with, his name was Tony Presley. He was there with his kids, and he looked at me and he said, "Man, I want to tell you something." I said, "What's that?" He said, "I'm thinking about getting my promotion up and going again." His promotion was actually the original New South Wrestling.
Oh.
It was NWA New South in Mississippi for a very long time. He moved it up to Kentucky in 2008 and 2009. He reigned for a couple years, shut the company down, but held on to the name and stuff.
Hmm.
And he got it. And there's two New Souths. There's a New South Alabama. There's New
Yeah,
South.
that's the one I'm familiar
Yeah,
with is the Alabama one because I've been
right,
there a million times. Yeah.
right. So, this was actually the first one, and he got it going again. And he said, "If I do this, do you want to be my ring announcer?" And I just kind of looked up to the sky. I just looked up to the sky and I was like, Dad, you have a funny way of working, don't you?
So I was gonna say you have this. If all those scary and tragic experiences have given you anything, I'm sure it's given you an innate and very particular sense of perspective
It
of
has.
what's truly important and who are truly important and the things you really want to do with your life. And you know, a couple years later, you're ring announcing guys in spandex.
Right.
So, so yeah, I mean, you chose, you had that opportunity, and one of the things you chosen to do with your very valued and precious time that is not gifted to anyone, but definitely you understand the value of the time we have,
Yeah.
is to get back into ring announcing. What is let's go into that decision there, from a macro perspective.
So I sat down with my wife and my kid, and I was like, man, I uh, I have this opportunity, and I don't know how you feel about it, but I have the opportunity to get back in wrestling. And my wife's words basically were, you know, if you want to do it, you need to chase your dream. And
It's
if
a good
you
woman.
need, if you want to make, yeah, she's awesome. If you want to make, if you want to make that opportunity, make it count. You know, you need to go for it. So I did, and the very first show that I got to do before New South, their return was Larry D needed a promotion for his Gen Next Pro Wrestling up in Cynthiana, and I got the opportunity to do that. And I was working with Jack Vaughn and Lord Crew. Of course, Larry was on the card, and
Larry is incredible, by the way.
oh, I love Larry. Me and him go way back. As a matter of fact, me and him knew each other from the MWA days,
Oh
and
wow.
that's where he really got going. And I got the opportunity to kind of shake the cobwebs off because boy, the nerves were nuts. The those nerves were, whew, the very first show back was Gen X Pro Wrestling. So, um, and I took those nerves, and I was able to pump out a great performance for him. And got my license finally back and ready to go. And then in comes New South, and we had our first show back on the 11th of March in 2022. And you want to talk about the nerves? Here were some of the people on this card. Okay, Billy Gunn. That was him and Larry
Who's the
D.
tallest man alive, by the way? He's huge. He's
Billy Gunn
huge.
and Larry D were in the main event for the championship.
So good.
The Gun Club was there, so Austin and Colton were there
Hmm.
too. Um, TME, Duke Davis and Gannon Jones Jr. Love those guys. They are a great tag team based out of the Northeast. If you ever get a chance to see them, go see them. Chelsea Green was on the card. Carlito was on the card. I mean, I was just like, this is my life now. This is my life. And then, of course, some of the people that were on there, Danny Moe was there. Danny is, great talent along with
Oh,
Facade.
oh, they're
Uh,
wonderful. I got to see them when I was up in Knoxville with you guys, and
yeah,
they were wonderful. Couldn't have been nicer.
where we met for the very first time.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Um, and then Kyle Maggard, he is the promoter for Appalachian Mountain Wrestling. And he has given me an opportunity to do something completely different from wrestling commentary or ring announcing. I'm his producer. I get to cut the camera shots. We do live camera shots for his
Very
shows,
cool.
and we are actually getting ready to start taping full TV episodes, and we're going to try to start shopping it around to stations here in Kentucky. So um, we do a lot, and that's where I got to know Kyle really well. Me and Kyle had run into each other early on, but I started working with him in 2023, and that was just my first card back, and I've gotten to work with some great promotions. You got New South, you got Gen Next Pro Wrestling. Um, I got the opportunity to work with Adrian Alexander and Elite Wrestling Alliance. I got to go back to one of the places I originally started, the Northern Wrestling Federation, and that was with Roger Ruffin and Wildcat Chris Harris. Chris Harris is
Oh, cool.
one of the
Yeah.
train.
Hmm.
He's actually one of the trainers out there, and he helps run Bone Crushers. I'm going to put this out there. If you're wanting to be a wrestler and you're in the Cincinnati area, Bone Crushers is the place to be.
Interesting.
NWF is awesome. They have produced Carl Anderson, Abyss, Wildcat Chris Harris, Jillian Hall. They all came from that. And yeah, I see your face.
Yeah, that's a killer lineup. I didn't
Oh yeah,
didn't
yeah.
realize that Jillian Hall and Abyss came from the same place. That's blowing my mind right now.
Do you remember the boys from Jollyville?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hmm.
They were NWF.
You can say the Jolly Go Fuck It. That's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I
We
mean,
can say it on this show. Yeah.
I
I
know,
love
I
those dudes. Yeah.
know. They came from NWF too. That they produce a lot of great wrestlers. One of my favorites who doesn't wrestle anymore, at least for now, at least. His name was Sean Virus Hard Drive, and he is based out in California now. I think he's working for a media company out there, but he was an amazing wrestler. As a matter of fact, that's where Jack Vaughn started too. Yeah, and he
Internet
was,
famous Jack Vaughn, who you've seen in a million memes and you don't realize who it is. Yeah.
and he was not Jack Vaughn there. Just FYI. I told him I would never say his other name again. So, uh, but they had such a great lineup. So I got to go do that. I got to work for Failure to Conform Wrestling, um, Shane Mercer and XCF. And then I got a great opportunity in 2023 to ride down to Knoxville for the very first time to work with Next Gen Wrestling. And that's when I got to sit down and do a broadcast with Mose for the first time. And Mose and I, man, let me tell you, I'm gonna put over my commentary partners here, and I'm not going to rank them because they are all 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D. That's what this is. So one of my favorite play-by-play commentators, or my favorite color commentator, is Lone Wolf Bobby Blade. We have history. That's all there is to it.
Sure.
We
Yeah.
know each other. We're like brothers. I love working with Nick Manoa. I love working with Mose. And then the guy that does not get enough love around here, he goes by DJ Otis Badass. And he is a DJ for one of the local radio stations. But the man is a wrestling encyclopedia.
Very
The
cool.
only thing that keeps him from doing wrestling shows is the fact that he works with the UK network. So when he does work with the UK network, his weekends are shot, So that's the only reason you don't see more of him. And then, of course, I got to give a big shout out to Trippin' Balls, because Trippin' Balls has done
Love
amazing.
that man.
Yes.
He did not have a good time in Chattanooga last time he was here. I hope he comes back and rights his wrong.
Right.
Um,
I've heard about that. We won't go into details.
he is a gem of a human being.
Trippin' Balls, man, you want to talk about a guy who has taken pro wrestling and the love for it and turned it into something amazing for himself, because he's number one. His dad is I can't
Crush your
talk right now.
bones.
The Crusher Bones Forever
Hmm.
page got some great wrestling content up there, and he's turned that into connections with people that his dad knew for years, and then all of a sudden, bam, we're back at it. And
Yeah, I'm
he's
so happy for him getting opportunities because he's a genuinely good dude and he's hysterical.
oh yeah,
Mhm.
he's great. And one of the first times he got behind the mic was with EWA. So I'm proud to have him as a partner as well. That's just on the commentary side,
Mhm.
But I've gotten a bunch of great opportunities in wrestling since I've been back, and I'm reaching out to more people, and just trying to up my game a little bit more. Um, I spoke with Joe Dabrowski the other day, and I sent him one of my videos, and he gave me some great critiques, and he was like, "You got a great and powerful voice, but dang, you need to stand still." I'm a mover. I'm a mover in that
I
ring.
get that. Yeah. Hmm.
So I need to plant my feet, is what he said. So I've talked with him, and I'm reaching out to other promotions, to see if I can expand my footprint, because I'm here, Ohio, Indiana,
Hmm.
Tennessee.
Very
You know,
centrally located. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
and I'm in a great spot for traveling, because I am at the 6475 hub, basically.
Hmm.
I can go, north, south, east, west very easily. Um, you know, I'm trying to expand, you know, and I've gotten some great opportunities, like Bullpen Pro Wrestling. They started up in Indiana, New Albany, and Dijak is their champion. Um,
He's
Zy-
huge too, by the way.
oh yeah,
I
he's
saw him
very huge.
actually at Alabama New South about 3 weeks ago, and I've met him a couple times. You'll appreciate this. Um, he was a rush end at a D2 school in Massachusetts. He was on a football scholarship, and imagine that guy. You're a quarterback for a D2 or D3 school, and that man is running at you as fast as he can possibly go, trying to sack you.
Yeah, that's
That's
a
the
little
most
scary.
terrifying thing I can conceive
Yep,
of.
yep. Wow, I did not know
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, he was a rush end. Yep, yep.
Very cool.
Hmm.
I got to talk to him at the bullpen show. Great guy, great wrestler. He I'm excited to work more shows with him. Um, you know, uh, Working with guys like XCF, Shane Mercer's promotion. You talk about a group of guys who are young and hungry, and that's what XCF is, and they have a good mix of other wrestlers too, like Ari Alexander, Jake Oman, Jason Kincaid's come up a couple times.
Nice.
Um, the Kogars, the both of them have been there. Um, so you know, one of my favorite people to work with when it comes to wrestling, when it comes to wrestlers and interactions with me, is Chance Profit.
Okay,
Uh,
yeah.
Love Chance. We we did a funny thing with New South when we were running shows at the Lexington Ice Center, and he started chasing me around, kind of doing his little creepy entrance and just kind of looking at me, giving me little waves and stuff like that. And then we had one show where he was wrestling Squeaky Clean Casey King. And Casey King does this thing where he will back somebody into a corner and you get a face full of crotch and you're trying to duck out of the way. He typically does it to a ref, but the referee in that match was a female ref, so he's like, I don't want to
Don't
get
do that.
canceled.
Hmm. Yeah, I
So
get that. Yeah.
would you be willing to do it? I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And he does it, and then they start arguing with me or arguing over me in the ring. And it's hilarious. Like, just the interactions that they have that they have are amazing. That was one of my favorites.
Love that.
Yeah. Yeah,
So what I'm
it's
hearing
great.
here is that you've gotten a new lease on life, literally. I mean,
100%.
100% new lease on life. You are choosing to spend a lot of that time branching out in independent wrestling,
Mhm,
seeing new places, trying new things, getting your name out there, doing new things like production, doing new things,
mhm.
that you haven't tried before. Really trying to take as big a bite of the apple as you can.
Absolutely.
So it's a new year.
Yeah.
What's the main bucket list goal for this year?
Main bucket list goal. Um, you know, if I want to be realistic, it's going to be branch out to other promotions, maybe get out of this four-state zone
Hmm.
and maybe get out to West Virginia, Missouri, maybe go further south into Georgia, something like that. If I wanted to be, shoot for the stars, I would love to work for a mid-major indie promotion, or even throw my name into the hat to work for a little bit for TNA or something like that. Um, it's going to take a lot of work, a lot of networking. It's a lot of networking,
I'm sure. Yeah.
especially as a ring announcer. You know, one thing I haven't been great about is getting out to promotions to say hello and let them see me in person. But that's also a thing where when I'm not doing shows, I do want to spend time with my family, and that they are my priority.
Hmm.
So
Same.
um,
Yeah.
it's going to be kind of a pick and choose type situation. But if anybody's willing to bring me out, I want to get out there and show you what I can do. And that's what I'm about.
So we'll wrap up here, kind of on that note. If someone likes the sound of your voice, likes you on this screen here,
I
wants to,
don't sound great
you
right now, by the way.
no,
I'm
but
losing my voice.
I've seen you announce you're good, you're very good, and if anybody, someone who's willing to, try new things and get out there and stuff like that, how would people book you? How would people, get in touch with you here?
Yeah, so if you are into the land of TikTok and you didn't delete it when it got
For
banned for
those 2
12
hours, yep,
hours, yeah,
yeah.
you can find me at Aaron RKY or search ring announcer Aaron Rose. On Instagram, I am Aaron RKY1. On X, which I don't know how much longer I'm going to be hanging on to that. I am at Prep Spin Aaron because I actually work with a high school sports company as well on the
Oh,
side. Yeah,
I did that for years.
yeah. We broadcast all the KHSAA events, so we get all the championships and stuff like that. That's what we're really well known for.
They take
Um,
things very seriously up
oh,
there.
they do,
Yeah.
they do, and we have a very ESPN style presentation, and it's awesome.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, yeah. So big shout out to William Warfield, who is the brains behind Prep Spin, and he actually helped build one of the programs um, that they used to stream. Like he had a lot of say in it, so that was really cool. You can find me on Facebook, ring announcer Aaron Rose as well. Aaron Rose is my shoot name. I'm not. Just it kind of works out well for a
No,
ring
it works.
announcer.
It's a good. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
no
a good
relation to Pete, by
professional
the
name.
way. Yeah.
I will
Um,
close with this. I will close with this because we'll wrap up here in a second. But
yeah.
you have been to Rupp Arena
Yes.
um, more times you can probably count.
Yes.
Sell me on why Rupp Arena is the most legendary arena in the country.
Ooh. Ooh. Man, you're putting me on the spot.
Because that's one of my bucket list places. That's a place I've always
Yeah.
wanted to go to see a game or see something or see wrestling or um what makes Rupp Arena legendary to you?
When you walk into Rupp Arena for especially for a University of Kentucky basketball game, when you walk in, there is nothing like the feeling of literally just walking into the arena and knowing that some of the greats have played on that floor. And I'm not talking about just Kentucky players. I'm talking about, you got to think about guys like Shaq and all the greats that have come through with Florida and Tennessee. You know,
Oh, I
the
get that. I used to go to the Boston Garden and I in Fenway, and I
yeah,
could feel the ghosts. The ghosts
yeah,
are
oh,
there.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the feeling you get. And on
Hmm.
top of that, if you go to another event there, like the Sweet 16, dude, they put 12, 15,000 people a session in for high school basketball. High school basketball. People love their basketball around here. And that is just the iconic arena. And you step on that floor, if you have the very rare opportunity to step on that Rupp Arena floor, you can just feel the ghost rising around you. It's a feeling like no other. And I got the chance one time to actually go through the Rupp Arena UK men's locker room, and I was just floored at how cool it was. And that was just in 2002. They've done a lot of changes to it since then. They've done some great upgrades to the arena, but I'll tell you what, one of my favorite memories in there was it was a wrestling related memory, and it was my very first show, and it was the chance to watch Ric Flair walk down that aisle because he had just flipped from WCW to WWF, and he
91.
still, yep, and he
Hmm.
still had the big gold belt at that time.
Oh man,
Yeah.
yes.
So now let me tell you, at 6 years old, you're just like, okay, he's wearing a championship belt. But now when you go back and you think about it, and you've heard the history and the story of how that happened, oh my gosh, it was you're watching history right there. He wore the big gold into Rep Arena
Enemy
for one of his
territory.
matches. Huh?
An enemy territory.
Oh, absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. WWF and that was one of the coolest memories. And just sitting there with my dad on one side, my grandfather on the other, and my uncle sitting on the other side of my dad, we were just, just loving every single minute of it. But catching a wrestling match inside Rep Arena, that's some hallowed halls, brother. It really is. And on top of that, you got to think too, that is the place where Macho Man Randy Savage really cut his teeth because
Hmm.
of ICW ran right here in Lexington. The Lanny Poffo, of course, Angelo Poffo being the promoter. You had so many great guys come through. And, the, when, when they did the Great American Bash, like not the WCW one, but they had one that traveled,
Yeah.
and
The
that
tour. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, that came through Rep Arena, and they just some of the things you got to see, and some of the stories I heard too, and I was just like, man, I would have loved to have been alive at that point to see what it really was about. You probably couldn't see a thing in there because of all the smoke, but
Well, Aaron, you are blessed to live near one of the most legendary arenas in the country. You're blessed to have this new lease on life. You're blessed to be. I mean, I can vouch an amazing wrestling talent who
I
doesn't
appreciate it.
necessarily take bumps, but there's other ways to get involved, and you're, like I said, biting at the apple as big as you can, and that's so
Absolutely.
admirable and so cool. Aaron, thank you so much. I
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
Um, we'll be back on this show probably about a week or two, and just thank you all for listening.